This week started pretty interestingly. If you want me to make my case here, Contessa Brewer, and Keith Olbermann, and Jon Stewart, and Bill Maher, if you want me to make my case, I can't go back into the history of media bias, so why don't we look at the last 7 days? My week started out on a dance floor, checking my BlackBerry, listening to Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive, and getting an AP News alert, finding out that Van Jones resigned. But who is Van Jones? I've never seen him before, because I'm watching ABC, NBC, and CBS. How on God's green earth can a scandal end with the resignation of an unaccountable czar who oversees unaccountable billions not make it onto ABC, CBS, or NBC, or the New York Times, or other than to defend him the days after he was unceremoniously left to resign into, I don't even know. What do we know about Van Jones? We know that he was a community organizer who left an elite college, Yale Law School, to become a community organizer. Now, what exactly is community organizing? Before the election, I was told that this is a person who forgoes corporate law in order to go do good deeds in the community. So I don't want to impugn the president's history of community organizing because I don't know anything about it, because the media wouldn't tell me about it. But what I do know about Van Jones's community organizing is that he went to Oakland, one of the most impoverished cities in the entire country, and this educated man took advantage of the underclass, just like we saw in Acorn. And what did this man do but organize people who needed help around the conspiracy theory that Abu Jamal, or Mumia Abu Jamal, is somehow innocent, preying on the inner city's belief that every single police officer is white and racist, and therefore this guy got set up. Then this guy says, you know what, I'm sick of community organizing in the major media, in the inner city. I think I want to hang out in Manhattan with the elite set. I've got a great new suit. I've got a great new look. I'm super handsome. So what does he do? He preys upon the fear that resides on the far fringes of the left that believe that 9/11 was an inside job and that George Bush and Dick Cheney were behind 9/11. This person was not vetted for his position. Yet we're the bad guys for bringing this up. Let's go to the middle of the week. Unreported stories by the mainstream media. The NEA is sending out an email about a conference call. What's this conference call about? Let's organize some of Obama's very successful artists who helped get him elected with those Hope and Change posters. Let's start getting them to help out. Let's help the NEA. Let's create some posters to help promote his healthcare initiatives. But you don't hear a peep about it. But then George Will has the temerity to say on This Week, piercing the network veil, I think some laws may have been broken there. You think? Yeah, well, I will use this one and talk louder. No, I won't. Here's my prompter. My teleprompter's over here, folks. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Quincy. So that's the middle of my week. Wow! I guess these stories don't matter. I guess the mainstream media has a different sense. Okay, I guess the mainstream media doesn't think that an NEA director of communication being reassigned 3 days after they were scolded for not covering the Van Jones story. That's 2 spankings of epic proportion, mainstream media, and you weren't there to cover it. And then we move on to Thursday. What happened on Thursday, folks, but the great work of Hannah and James. They dumped the most excruciating video that I've ever seen in my entire life. The Baltimore Acorn, in which these two actors / independent investigative journalists posited to actually read the book of Saul Alinsky that has so motivated the left for years as they demonized their fellow citizens. And this guy read the book inside and out and said, hey, I wonder if you do their tricks against them, how that would play out. So he goes into Acorn with his friend Hannah and positions himself as a pimp with a prostitute, and they're there to set up an underage brothel of illegal immigrants ages from 13 to 15 from the Central American enclave of El Salvador. Of course they got kicked out. No, they didn't get kicked out. And when that was reported on Fox News and all over the internet, went viral, has been seen by millions upon millions, sending me emails saying, when is the mainstream media going to start covering this? They're never going to start covering it. That's why the era of big media is over. You're the media now. The American people are the fourth estate. That is why I'm here to tell you in middle America you don't need to trust Hollywood or Manhattan anymore because the game is over. Thank you very much.
All right, way to go, Andrew Breitbart. He will be back up here a little later on today. He will be back up here. All right.
I learned that at U2 concerts. You do encores. I told you at the beginning of my speech about Hollywood conservatives, and they do exist, and they do exist in large numbers, and your support of them and their movies, when they make good movies, I can't tell you. You don't understand what happens to these people. Matter of fact, I'm about to introduce you to one. And he can't even perform here under his own name because he will lose jobs. And they'll poo-poo that, but it's true. And James and Hannah, well, they've got it on video. Just kidding, guys. I knew you were scared out there in Hollywood. This person is a blogger at Big Hollywood, the site that I created to give Hollywood conservatives, libertarians, free market thinkers a place to stand up for themselves and a place for us to defend those people like John Voight that would stick their necks out and go against this mainstream media craziness. John David writes the funniest blogs about my weekly date with a liberal. And he has to, we live out in LA, and he has the greatest stories in the world, so he thought he'd put them on the site. And they're the funniest things in the world. You have to read them. But he is also a screenwriter, and he's also a great singer-songwriter. And on one of those excursions into the single world of Los Angeles, he met a girl down in Venice, California, which is kind of a place that kind of thinks Obama's too far to the right. I call it Dennis Kucinich bumper sticker country. And he was at a party, and this girl cynically said, "I hate America." And he said, "Oh, can you name a better place?" And she said, "No. I went to college. That's called nihilism. And the American people stand for a hell of a lot more than that." And he wrote a song that I think you're going to enjoy called American Heart about what that moment brought to his mind. John David.